Heists in GTA Online are now over, permanently, because just 4 months before GTA 6, Rockstar has dropped what many consider their most egregious nerf wave of all time. Possibly even worse than the infamous San Andreas Mercenaries downgrade that removed over 180 vehicles from the game, because heists are by far the most fun type of content in GTA 5 Online, and everybody knows that. You know it, I know it, Rockstar knows it, which makes this recent decision of theirs incredibly baffling, because now it almost seems like they're deliberately pushing people towards doing those boring business sell missions instead. Either that, or they plan to turn GTA Online into some kind of weekly engagement simulator similar to a mobile game where you log in, do 1 or 2 heists for the week, and then log off so you can return next week. So for today's video, I actually did 4 back-to-back runs of Cayo on 2 separate accounts to test out just how bad these new nerfs were, and to my surprise, it wasn't all doom and gloom like many were claiming, and there were even a few hidden nuggets of hope in this update, along with a few buffs, which is why I'm making today's video, folks, to clear up some of the confusion and tell you if you can still make loads of money with your old favorites or if they're actually dead like many are claiming. This is everything you need to know about the heist nerfs in GTA Online. So let's kick things off with the what. Just how bad is this new heist nerf, and has it been applied across the board? Well, a bunch of really smart data miners dug around inside the update files, and here's what they came up with. Check out this chart from GTA series videos. On the leftmost column, you've got the old payouts for each heist, and to the right of that, you've got the new nerfed payouts. Then there's something called a weekly completion multiplier, and on the rightmost column, you've got the new payout with this multiplier added. So what the hell does all of this mean? Well, let me break it down by using Rockstar's own patch notes. Here, pay attention to this part. It says the following contact missions and heists now have a weekly completion bonus, increasing GTA money rewards for all players if the host has not yet completed the associated finale in the current weekly period. Subsequent GTA Online money rewards will be reduced if the host completes the same activity again in the current weekly period. And basically what this boils down to is the fact that completing your very first heist for the week will now net you more cash than ever before. However, on every subsequent playthrough after that, you will lose that multiplier and the heist will revert to its base payout for the rest of the week until the weekly cycle resets, and then once again you'll get the increased payout for the next week exactly once before reverting back again to those newly nerfed payouts. As an example, let's take the Cluckin Bell farm raid right here. You can see that the new base payout is now $400,000, a $100,000 or 20% reduction compared to its old value. However, once you apply that 1.5x weekly completion bonus, you end up making $600,000 for your very first Cluckin Bell of the week. And if you decide to do more Cluckin Bells after that for that specific week, you will revert back to the new base payout of $400,000 per raid. Now, there's both good and bad aspects to this, depending on what kind of player you are. If you're someone who logs into the game a couple times a week and only plays a few heists, you stand to make more money than before, because let's say you do 1 Cluckin Bell today, 1 No Way Out tomorrow, a Dr. Dre contract after that, and then that's your haul for the week. Well, in that case, you'll end up a very happy man because thanks to those weekly bonus multipliers, you now make slightly more cash than you were before. And what's interesting here is that even if you play Cluckin Bell twice a week, your average payout is the same as before. You make $600,000 from the first one with the bonus multiplier, $400K for the second one, add them up and your average pay per Cluckin Bell is now $500 grand, the same as the old payout. But things get bad once you grind more than 2 Cluckin Bells a week. On your third Cluckin Bell, you're now sitting at an average payout of $466,000 per heist. On your fourth one, that goes down even further to $450 grand. So for anybody who plays up to 2 Cluckin Bells a week, this new update can either be a positive or a stalemate. But for anyone who plays more than 2 Cluckin Bells a week, it is a net reduction in money per hour. And that was just one example using one heist that everyone loves. Here's the math with the Dr. Dre VIP contract. The base payout has been reduced from $1 million all the way down to $900 grand. That is a 10% reduction, so not as bad as Cluckin Bell. Plus, if you include the 1.2x weekly multiplier, you can now make $1.1 million with your first Dr. Dre VIP contract of the week. Then if you do a second one, you're making $2 million across 2 heists, which comes out to an average of $1 million per heist, same as before. But things get worse only when you go past 2 VIP contracts per week. On your third one, you're making $2.9 million from 3 heists, so that's $966,000 per contract on average, and on your fourth, it drops even further down to $950,000 per contract. Now, I could obviously go on and on with more examples, but you've got the chart, you've got a calculator, you don't really need me to do the rest of the math for you. The bottom line here is this: as long as you're playing 1 of each heist a week, you now make more money than before. If you play 2 heists a week, you make the same money as before. No changes. But once you play 3 or more heists of each type in a single week, that's when the nerfs begin to hurt your money making potential. So ultimately, this update is Rockstar's way of giving all of us grinders a giant middle finger, because the casuals are perfectly fine with 1 or 2 Cluckin Bells per week, but anybody who's trying to grind big amounts of cash in a short amount of time, well, they're the ones who are going to suffer the most, because when you're grinding, you don't cycle through 5 different heists. You kind of just pick 2 or 3 and then you alternate between them throughout the course of a few days. For example, you do a round of Cayo Perico, then you do a Dr. Dre contract, maybe you finish it off with a Diamond Casino heist. And now that Cayo has been nerfed into the ground, your options are even more limited. And once you go past that 2 heist threshold, you're in the negative compared to previous runs. So really what Rockstar is trying to say with this update is play different types of content. But previously, they encouraged cycling through content with their weekly bonuses. Instead of nerfing heists across the board, they tell you, hey, this week, auto shop contracts are on 2x money, or guys, you should really try out the Garment Factory. It's on double cash for this week and the priority file is actually on 4 times money. Something like that. But now they're taking a more heavy-handed approach just by nerfing the payouts permanently across the board for all heists, and then slapping a weekly bonus multiplier which expires exactly after 1 playthrough as the host. And what's weird is I've seen some posts on Reddit where folks are basically coping here by saying that since the multiplier only takes effect if you are the host, you can keep it going by gathering a squad and having a different guy host each run. But most folks don't have a team of agreeable, like-minded grinders to play with on tap whenever they want. I'd say most of you guys watching my videos are solo grinders, and if you like playing 2 or 3 meta types of content over and over and over, which many of you do, well then for you, this new update is a big slap in your face. And while I do understand the logic behind it a little bit, I don't necessarily think this is the most optimal way to encourage content cycling whatsoever, especially this late in the game's life cycle. Like if Rockstar were genuinely interested in promoting healthier playstyles and that was it, well, what they should have done is boost the base payouts for all heists and then implement a 10% payout reduction on each repeat after the first one. Like your first Dr. Dre, you get a $1.5 million payout because that's the new base payout. Then on your second run of the VIP contract, you lose 10% and that goes down to $1.35 million. On your third run, it drops down to $1.17 million, and so on. This way, you're punishing players for spamming the same content over and over without changing to anything, but not to a degree where it feels exploitative. Because right now, Rockstar is practically screaming at you to buy shark cards just 4 months before the shiny new thing drops and GTA 5 Online becomes obsolete, more or less. Or hey, how about this? Ditch the percentage reduction bullcrap altogether and just give us better weekly bonuses. Like instead of a double money on races and community missions update that nobody plays, how about give us more weekly bonuses on active content like FIB files, the VIP contract, auto shop robberies, etc. Instead of saving diamonds for a once a year event, how about give us diamonds maybe every month? Maybe if other content was actually worth playing, most players wouldn't just sit here and spam Cayo all day. And folks, you can tell that Rockstar really hates Cayo because not only did they cut the payouts by close to 40% for certain types of loot, but they also made it so Cayo is the only heist in the game to not get a weekly bonus multiplier because F you, buy shark cards. And no, this doesn't affect replay glitchers because those guys, even with Sinsamito Tequila, are still making $500,000 every 14 minutes, which is still leagues better than everything else in the game. Plus, a lot of replay glitchers out there are glitching the Panther statue, which hasn't been nerfed. So the effects of this new patch on their money-making potential is, well, 0. And speaking of those Cayo nerfs, let's dive into the details if you don't already know. So here's a handy little chart, courtesy of TezFun2 on Twitter, where you can see all the changes made to the Cayo Perico heist, and it is clear that not only have they reduced the payouts for the primaries, but they've also gone in there and reduced loot values for the secondary targets. And then on top of reduced loot values, Rockstar have also meddled with the spawn rates for primary targets, so now you have an 80% chance of spawning Sinsamito Tequila, which used to be a 60% spawn before, and this applies to consecutive playthroughs of Cayo within the same week. Previously, they had a similar system where Tequila would spawn more frequently if you did a Cayo within 3 days of the first one, but that was a 3-day or 72-hour timer. Now you have a 1-week-long timer before Sinsamito resets to a 0% chance of spawning, so if you want something other than Sinsamito Tequila, you just have to wait 1 whole week. And they also reduced the spawn chances for the Pink Diamond down to just 2%. Bearer Bonds, which was one of the better loot types before, is now paying just 616 grand, so less than the old Sinsamito Tequila. And it has a spawn chance of just 10%. Now, I actually went ahead and did some testing of my own. My very first run, I got incredibly lucky with Bearer Bonds, and before these nerfs, I'd have made over $1.1 million, even with grass and cash as my secondaries. But this time, my total capped out at $972,000 with the Elite Challenge and some of the best secondary loot that you can get. In fact, I got 2 full stacks of Coca-Cola at this shed next to the main docks, which for some reason is still glitched, and you can loot it with just one player, even though someone is supposed to hold down the lever while the other guy goes in and loots. Anyway though, with 2 full stacks of the white stuff, I made $61,000 from the wall safe to augment my bearer bonds. I still couldn't break past $1 million here. Then I did 3 more runs of tequila, and I want you guys to place your bets on the maximum amount of money that I made. Ready? Okay, here we go. First Sensimito tequila, I made $853,000 with the Elite Challenge. Round 2, I made $822 grand with the Elite. And lastly, I did a duo playthrough of the Cayo Perico Heist with a 75-25 split of the take, where I actually got $1,033,000 with Sensimito of all things. And this is because me and my partner filled our bag with lots of gold. So even on normal mode and with 75% cut of the take, I blew past $1 million with the newly nerfed Sensimito tequila, and this is the Cayo meta now. If you want to play for maximum money, get a duo. Solo grinding Cayo is still viable, I'd say, I guess in relation to some other heists since they were also nerfed, but honestly, get a duo if you can help it. In fact, I did an average tally and it turns out that I was making 920 grand per Cayo heist across all 4 runs. I did this by adding up my earnings and dividing by 4, since that's how many Cayos I ran, and 920 grand is still a touch more than the new Dr. Dre VIP contract, for slightly less time. So while the absolute numbers have dropped, relatively speaking, the Cayo Perico heist in this new meta isn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Is it worse than before? Damn right, it's awful compared to the good old days. However, is it completely impractical as a money-making source? Absolutely not. It is still one of the best active grinds in the game, especially with duos, because as you can see, I was still able to make over $1 million with Sensimito tequila just by playing Cayo with one other player. And the hopium doesn't end there either, because now we've secretly got a new champion of solo grinding that might actually be better than even the old Cayo. Meet Oscar Guzman. This is the only heist in the game whose payouts are still the same as day one. Rockstar for some reason forgot to nerf this one, so now you're still making $750,000 on hard mode for about 45 to 50 minutes of gameplay. But it's actually a lot better than before now, because we now have that weekly bonus multiplier. So on your first Oscar Guzman of the week, you'll make $1.1 million, and the property itself is really cheap. You can buy the Mackenzie Field Hangar for under 1.5 million, which makes Oscar Guzman one of the most meta grinds right now in this post-apocalyptic hellscape that is the modern GTA Online economy. And I also heard some players talking about how Doomsday was buffed this week, but actually Rockstar just messed up and reduced the payouts a little bit too much with the Court Center Heist DLC. So what they did was they went back in and recalibrated things with a post-patch buff to those payouts. Now, you are making more than the day one of the patch, but it's still less than what Doomsday used to pay out originally. So if you do multiple runs in 1 week, you're still getting screwed, which I guess, honestly, nobody will since it's Doomsday and nobody even plays that heist, so I guess it is a paper buff after all. But ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for this new heist nerf analysis. If you want a quick summary here, you now make less money than before for multiple playthroughs of the same heist in a single week, but more money than before if you only play heists once like a casual. My opinion, I think this actually harms newer players, because think about it this way. How many newbies do you know who own every business and property in the game? The few I've seen only have 2 or 3 meta things. Like they'll have a Kasaka, they'll have an agency, maybe an arcade, but that's about it. They do rely on these 2 or 3 meta purchases to fuel their grind and buy cool stuff like supercars, unlike more serious grinders who own every single business in the game. So for those of us out there who do that, we can just cycle through all the heists in a row and then go on to enjoy our weekly bonuses and other businesses. But for newer players who literally cannot even play half of these heists because they don't own the required properties first, this is a slap in the face for them. And now, because you need to combine heists with passive businesses to continue to make good money nowadays, it's even worse for casuals out there, because half of them don't even have a full set of MC businesses, large warehouses, a hangar, a bunker, a nightclub, etc. They're kind of just screwed. Overall, that's just my opinion with this video. Let me know what you think about it, and if you'd like to see me make a video talking about the best ways to make money in this post-heist nerf meta. Also, kind of funny, a lot of players think Rockstar is just not going to abandon GTA 5 Online for their newest GTA that's about to come soon, and that you can continue to stick on this game forever, but this seems like a very clear move to get you off this game and get you onto the new one eventually. It's only going to get worse, and things may become very unbearable soon. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Drop a like on it if you found it informative and entertaining. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel if you are new. Check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/hazardoushtv for more GTA Online money grinding live streams, and I will see you guys in the next GTA 5 Online video. Adios, amigos.